Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Bad Design Habits We Love panel. My name is Jason Morningstar. I'm the creative director of Bully Pulpit Games, and I am joined by two dear friends, and we're going to have a rousing conversation. One of my friends is Jeeyon Shim, and would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Jeeyon Shim. I'm an outdoor educator turned game designer. I am based in the Bay Area in California, and I make a lot of bad calls in the course of my work. How about you, Tim?
My name is Tim Hutchings, and I've made one game that everybody likes called Thousand Year Old Vampire, and I've made a bunch of little games that nobody cares about that I love much more than Thousand Year Old Vampire, and all of them have horrible problems with the way I made them.
Cool.
I live in Illinois and Oregon and do things.
You're like bi-coastal. It sounds so impressive.
No, Illinois is not a coast.
That's true. It's not a coast.
It's
Give it time.
Give it time.
True.
So we're here to talk about things that we do or have done that are stupid, lazy, ill-considered, undisciplined, ill-advised, but that have proven to be successful for us. We can talk about general failures as well, but I'm super interested in the things that we do that are on the surface counterproductive or that defy conventional wisdom, things that people tell you never to do in like Game Design 101, but that we do anyway, or persist in doing, or can't stop doing. How's that sound?
Is there a requirement that these things actually be good as the twist at the end, or can they just be stupid and we succeed in spite of them?
Yes, that is totally legit.
Like that one, yeah.
Yeah, that's good too. We all have those as well.
Yeah. They're both good.
Yep. So that's kind of what really inspired me was that these panels at conventions like this are often sort of we're patting each other on the back about how awesome we are, how clever we are, how cool we are. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if we didn't do that? So we're here to not do that. Feel free to air whatever dirty linen you want to, and things that you don't want to talk about, that's fine too, of course. And I'm not interested in being self-deprecating, right? I want us to be honest and talk about this in a way that is going to be useful for people who are watching and are maybe thinking that we're actually cool, right?
Oh,
Don't be self-deprecating.
Yeah, we're not cool at all. It's fine.
I mean,
I don't have people touch me on the back at conventions. Can I start with something? I have it right here in my hand.
You actually prepared notes, which is like
Tim.
Curve, Tim.
Wait. 4 minutes ago, as I was stomping around, and you people were looking at clown pictures on my walls, complaining. I said I better get a notebook so I can write shit down while this happens, so I don't forget things I want to say. And I took that, and on the random thing of paper sitting on a shelf I took off is a bunch of notes for a game that's been sitting there unlooked at for a year and a half. Okay,
good.
Maybe not that long. And so that's great. It's like a time capsule of bad ideas, or actually pretty good ideas. And the thing is I lost it. I lost this entire game, this entire idea, everything about it, and then I rediscover it. And I've done this before with this exact same blue pad of paper. So that's a bad design habit, right? Is that a good example?
Yeah, I think so. That's stupid. Yeah. You shouldn't do that.
No. How could it be worse?
I mean, it could be worse. You could have burned that in the fireplace or something instead of just losing it. Oh, true. No! Why? Why?
This is so spicy. Wow.
I know. It's getting.
I'm wound up.
I can tell. Is this the night when we destroy our work on camera?
Oh my God. I have a lot I could do that with. Yeah. I'd have to get up and get it, but yeah.
We might want to do that. Yeah. All right. So what's the deal, Tim? You said it was a pretty good idea, and then you just ripped it apart again. Is it committed to memory?
No, it's in 2 pieces of paper. I can put them back together. I didn't destroy it forever. That was pure theater.
Yeah. Okay.
Look, actually, now I have 2 good ideas.
There you go.
No good.
Should I do that with my
good
money?
Came. What?
Oh, I was gonna say, if that's how it works, should I do that with my money? I have a lot of bills I could just tear up, and then it'll like quadruple my income. That's how that works, right? Yeah. Everyone should do that. There's a bad idea. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Jason, I want to hear what your bad habits are.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I have bad habits. We can talk about bad
Okay.
habits. They're different from bad ideas.
Mm.
And I think that my bad habits are probably in some ways universal. I don't know. I get sucked into designing and layout, which is the example I use in the description, right? So for those of you who may need to step back on this one, the proper workflow, what people will tell you is that you should write your ideas as text or in a spreadsheet or whatever format it makes sense to structure them, and when they're done, then you put them into layout. And that doing those things, conflating the two so that you're in your layout program actually making stuff is a very bad habit. And I would suggest that most people indulge in that very bad habit. And some people, probably
I
like
do.
Jeeyon, don't even start anywhere but their layout program. I'm guessing.
It's true. Yeah,
I knew
for
it.
my smaller games, like the ones that are, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 15 pages or less, I do write directly into layout because, speaking of bad habits, I hold on to tech really, really for a very long time, like past their obsolescence date, because I have the worst habit of all, which is caring a lot about the environmental stewardship aspect of like my life. So
Huge
I
mistake.
hate I hate like junking stuff when I don't have to. And my laptop is working. It's just from 2012, so I actually can't even use Affinity on it. So my layout design is all done through Canva, which is excellent. It's browser based, it's free, but also it does not support long documents, which is why the long stuff takes fucking forever. Oh shoot! I'm so sorry that I swore.
I think it's okay.
A long time. Okay, cool. But yeah, so for smaller games, basically to save time, because copy pasting into Canva will like start the little wheel going, and then I have to walk away and make a meal and then come back in order to feel like I'm being productive with that time. I just write directly into the layout. So all my small games, if there are typos that I don't fix, that's why. It's because I'd have to change the entire document to do it. So don't do that. Don't do that.
That's
It's really
also
inefficient.
that's also a terrible habit. So like you see errors, but you don't fix them because it would be
Mm-hmm.
inconvenient for you.
So many well-meaning people will message me or email me, be like, I really like your game. There are a lot of typos like on this page, and I'll have to be like, wow, thank you so much. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart, but I'm not going to do anything about it unless it like breaks the game to have it there. Like I just literally can't. So yeah.
Tim, is this does this ring true for you as well?
Yeah. Except there's a little kind of diversion here which I want to talk about, because we have Jeeyon like copy and paste and have the spinning wheel, right? And I'm editing in a piece of software, I'm doing something, and I get a spinning wheel, and that's where we bifurcate there. And Jeeyon goes and is still productive, and I go and lay down on the floor and feel sorry for myself.
Right.
And then I forget what I'm doing and never get anything done. So I like that, and think about other things.
That sounds relaxing, though. At least you've got a work-life balance there. Like for me, I think one of the bad habits is I have a really hard time resting. And so, you know, like you're taking like neutral time to reset yourself, and I'm just like not able to do that. So that's a terrible habit too. Don't do that either.
I want to
just
say,
lay down and fret. Go ahead, Jason. I'm sorry.
No, yeah, don't interrupt me like that, Hutchings. I want to say that for me also, layout is a creativity tool as well. Being able to visually see how something is going to look is very helpful to me and often very inspiring. So so like it's a bad habit, but also it's just part of my creative process at this point. It's not going to change. That's just where I'm at.
Yeah.
Me too. The one time it matters, the one time it affects anyone at all, is I'll say, "Hey, can you look at this text and tell me how it's like? How is this written well?" And the person was like, "Yes, give it to me as a Word doc." And I'm like, "No, it can never be a Word document. Never. I have to give you this." And then they say no.
Yeah. That's a problem. It's a problem for me because I work with a team, right? Like I have somebody who's an editor and a copy editor, and sometimes a developmental editor and a layout person who takes my garbage and turns it into something good. And all those people hate me all the time, like unrelentingly. So that's.
I got to tell you, having a team is a great habit. I have no team. It's just me. That's a terrible idea. Don't do that. Delegate and find other people to do stuff for you. Because if I have anything else going on,
Let's just, yeah, we're gonna keep going.
We're gonna talk. It's fine.
Cool.
Yeah, we're hanging out. Yeah.
Can I ask you two? Do you give yourselves permissions to fail? Do you have permission to fail? And if so, what form does that take for you?
Yes. Tim can go first though, because I'm really interested in your answer.
Yeah, I'm better at this, right? I'm a good failure.
We all know it's true.
I think I can make a thing and not have it succeed and be perfectly happy with it and have it live. Here, I'm going to show you this. And this also comes out of the last thing we're doing. I made these beautiful cards. I drew this, right?
It's really nice.
And the blood of others. I made cards. This one's upside down, but that can change with locations, with people, with all kinds of shit.
Blowing
Trying
my
to figure
mind.
out a game. What?
Yep. It's blowing my mind.
Trying to figure out a game.
So cool.
And it didn't work. And the game never worked, but I like the cards and I like my little drawing. And I went through the process and I'm cool with that because I make this shit for me. And if I've gotten enough out of it, I'm all right. I don't give the games away. They're parties I make for people. And if the party's not good or if they're not ready, then I'm fine. Jeeyon, please.
What?
It's your turn, Jeeyon.
Yeah, failure.
Permission to fail. Permission to fail.
You have to give yourself permission to fail. Otherwise, you're never going to make anything. Like, I think that, fear of failure is rooted in a fear of rejection. And it's like, imagine being ruled by a fear of rejection in your like actual life. Like you would just never go outside. To being a creative professional of any kind. Like I do have games from like the very beginning of when I started writing them for myself rather than for the company I used to work for, that I still like, but like most of them I like don't even want to look at them. And it's not because they're terrible, it's just because I've moved on, but I would consider them failed games in some way. But I'm not afraid of that. So like you just have to keep going, like you can't let failure be a roadblock. Because otherwise you won't make anything. And I think that, another thing that means is like, you kind of have to not care what other people think or say about your work, which maybe could be a bad habit. I don't know. I don't really care a whole lot.
Yeah. I don't think that's a bad habit.
Yeah.
I think you can care too much, and that is a bad habit.
That is a bad habit. Yeah. Yeah. But it's not my bad habit, so I won't speak to that. Yeah.
Tim, you care, Tim?
I think we can fold this back. I do this all by myself. I have a really hard time working with anybody in anything. And I partially think it's because I don't, my relationship to failure is very special. And if anyone else is in the room, it gets complicated fast. I am a terrible collaborator. And I want to fail on my own terms and walk away when I'm ready. And people have like offered me writing jobs on like impressive games, or one game, really, one impressive. And I'm like, no, I can't do this because I can't fail this way. If I have to make I couldn't imagine having to make things, having to succeed. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's and also that world that you talk about there, where your game design will be done on November 2nd. I can't do that. Also, which is like I guess I'm an auteur, right? I can't work on deadlines or whatever, which sounds really arrogant, but sad, but it's kind of true. And
I mean, like, I also can't work on deadlines because, like, I cognitively actually have a really hard time with time and the passage of time. So, like, I think just being upfront about your particular challenge areas or growth areas, I guess, is just a thing that you can do ahead. So there's a bad habit, actually. Like for the first year, I didn't tell people like what I have a hard time with when I was going to work with them, which meant I stressed the shit out of them, right? Because they were like, why is this not happening? Or like, why is this so slow? And it was because I was like embarrassed to say like, I actually have a really hard time with deadlines. I always have. And I've talked openly about this on social media. Like I was recently diagnosed with severe ADHD, which was like, oh, that's why. But then the bad habit I hung on to was the like embarrassment around admitting that like deadlines are really hard for me, even though that's true of a lot of people, ADHD or no ADHD. So like the bad habit is not letting people know up front what your strengths and weaknesses are, because then they'll just assume that you work the way that they do, and then they'll get stressed out when you clearly don't, So that's a bad habit for sure.
It is. That's a good one. And I'm glad that you've learned that about yourself and that you can communicate it now. It's no longer a bad habit for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a permanent, I'm not like Bully Pulpit where there's like an editor and an ad, but I do have a collaborator, my good friend and creative partner, Jeeyon Core. And we both have ADHD and like talk about it openly, and it actually like defines a lot of our business practice. So that's been very helpful. It also means things like we both have very active independent careers in addition to our collaborative work together. So sometimes we'll just get really wrapped up in our own stuff, which means we just do things when it feels natural, which is a good habit for us specifically. But if you're someone who wants to do things with like existing teams or existing entities, terrible habit. So, it's contextual. Some of these habits depend on like what kind of workflow and what your desired outcomes are for working in games. So,
that's I think a really good point. And I would just caution anybody who's watching this, maybe someone's watching this, that what we're talking about are our own unique experiences. Right.
Yeah.
And find your own way. And something that's really terrible for me is not necessarily terrible for you. So we don't know what we're talking about in terms of your life.
I mean, we could just stop with "we don't know what we're talking about." I feel like that's a complete sentence. That's fine.
It is a complete sentence. That is absolutely true.
I can maybe one up that theme a little bit with a bad design habit. I think one of my worst design habits is that I don't specifically care about games that much.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I like games and I make games, but I make lots of other things too, and some of them happen to be games. And sometimes I make things that look like games and they're not, or things that come out of my game making that aren't games, and that makes lots of problems for me.
What kind of problems?
I released the companion volume for 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, and some people got furious. I got threats. And I'm like, this isn't a game. This isn't anything you want.
You were very clear about that.
I'm making this.
You were very clear about that up front.
Yeah.
Well, some people thought it was like a clever marketing thing. And I'm like, no, I'm not that clever. But so I took themes, right? And I made a thing that I think is magnificent. And it couldn't exist without the game. But it's not a game. But it's part of this thing I do, right? And that's terrible business. The worst fucking business I could possibly do was to make beautiful, wonderful objects, right? That aren't games.
Huge mistake. Well, I'm sorry you got threats. That's in some ways that's a real badge of honor. In another way,
sure.
We were when Night Witches came out, we were threatened by Russian nationalists as well. So like you're in good company.
Which game?
Night
Witches, apparently. Wait, threat. Like when you say threat, are you saying like they were just angry in your inbox, or like was there like a plan of action? Because that's wild to me that anyone would get that worked up over a game. It's a game. It's recreational. It's optional. Like you can literally just walk away and it doesn't exist anymore.
It is a stain on the cherished memory of the Great Patriotic War. It is a series of lies. There were no lesbians in the military. It's all about
that's true. Lesbians didn't exist until after 1974. No lesbians until 1974.
Yeah, I would argue 1989 is probably the year that the lesbians were created in Russia. But anyway, it's a very complicated and ugly story, but I just didn't want you to feel like you were the only one who'd been threatened. So let's go with that. And
Yeah.
I
don't even want to know. I don't even want to know what's in your inbox, Jeeyon.
I will say, yeah, you don't want to know. It's true. But also, like, for the most part, I will say the threats aren't really a thing, but the thinking that because, I do genuinely love meeting people. Corny as it is, I love making friends. I love getting to know people, and like, I'm very community oriented. And sometimes people think that what that means is I'm somewhere between like their priest and their mommy. And so my inbox is sometimes like that. And like, that's a little much. So if I don't, if I don't know someone, and even with friends, like a little bit of a check-in is nice. And I don't hold anything against people for doing that, but it is like a lot. And I think, speaking of bad habits, at the very beginning, I didn't know what to do. So I would engage with people. Like, I would have conversations, even if those conversations were like, I don't think that I'm the person you should be talking to. Like, I think you should, whatever it was. But really, that's the thing to do there is say like, hey, like, I'm, my heart goes out to you. I think that this person is the appropriate venue, or like this, and then like kind of disengage. So if you're someone who is also like outgoing and friendly, and you tend to get messages from people that are like a little much for you, like engaging deeply with people who you don't know, sometimes a bad habit. Again, contextual. Like an opposite of that, right, is a lot of people have been reaching out since my beloved cat passed away to share stories about their own beloved pets, and that's actually been really lovely and supportive. But it all depends on who you are as a person, and what feels good to you. Yeah. It occurred to me, another habit I have that is very bad is, and I don't know if you two share this or not. Maybe you do. You can tell me. But often I'll get really excited about a project, and I will develop it past the point of viability into something that's more like finished before I know if it's good or functional or even appropriate. And I've got a really good example of that I don't think I've ever shared with anybody, in fact. And this got play tested at Metatopia, and I was so proud of it. I've got this game. And you can see here, it's a card-based game. I've got these where's my camera? These incredibly detailed cards. They're really beautiful. I spent a lot of time laying it out and making it look all cool. And when I sat down to play it for the very first time, it was at Metatopia. And when I was done, the people who played it said, "You can't ever publish this. This game is harmful and offensive." And you've made a game about the experience of colonialism from the point of view of the colonizers, and it's brutal and horrible, and you should never publish it. All of which is true. All of which is true. And the next time we're all together in the same space, I would love to share this game with you because it's fascinating. I want to see it, yeah.
Like, I just had this myopia about the idea. I thought it was a super interesting concept, and it is, but it's also just dreadful. And I got this far with it, right? Like, I had prototype decks printed. I was ready to go. I was confident that it was going to be, like the 2017 Bully Pulpit Games release. And that is not what it was. So, like, it would have been so much better for me not to own this object, but to have had a spreadsheet that I could show to somebody who would be like, immediately, like, whoa, what are you doing? No, don't do that.
I mean, that kind of assumes like a linear process of creation, which I think is a bad habit kind of universally. Like, almost no one I know who makes creative work works in a linear way, right? Where it's like there's specific stages of development where you can like show, maybe Ross Kalman, but like other than that, nobody.
Other than Ross, yeah.
That I know personally. And so like, I think holding yourself to a standard that like doesn't exist for you is kind of a bad habit, and definitely one that I'm guilty of, because like some people generously call me like pattern finding in the way that I think and create, and I would use the word chaotic, and I've like embraced that for myself. But that's a recent development. For a while, I really honestly felt bad that like I don't work the way a lot of my friends do, that like my communication patterns aren't really the same, like step ABC kind of in terms of project management. And so like I figured out how things work for me, and I figured out how things work for me and Shing, but the way that I work is not really the way that other people work. And instead of being like, I can use that to my advantage, because there are actually a lot of advantages to it, I just felt bad in an unconstructive way for like a while. And it wasn't until I like looked at it in a different framing and like was like, well, I might be chaotic, but I'm also adaptive, right? And you find like other ways to like think of your own habits. But for a long time, I just compared myself to other people, which is it's just like a bad call in every way.
Tim, do you compare yourself to other people?
I don't know. Wow. Do I compare myself to other people? Yeah, no, I don't know.
Okay. You don't have to know.
Yeah, it's fine.
We've gotten our first question.
Awesome.
Ooh.
We love questions.
Am I being compared to someone?
No. Can relying on hyperfocus be a habit?
That's the question?
Yes.
What?
Can relying on hyperfocus be a habit? Jeeyon, you want to take this? Because it sounds like you've been thinking about this lately.
I guess so. So like, I think that one thing about that is that for me, and this is maybe the difference between just having ADHD and having severe ADHD, I have, even with medication, almost no control over like my own hyper focus or like really productive times. Like it really just kind of feels like it's on its own natural seasonal schedule, and I'm just kind of along for the ride. So I actually can't control my hyper focus. Like I also sometimes can't, oh my God, I can't predict it. So I don't know how to answer that question because it doesn't really apply to my experiences. But I do think that like if you're someone who knows what will catalyze your like hyper focus patterns, and like to some degree you can like channel or harness it in a certain direction and like steer it in a certain direction, like I don't see anything wrong with that. That seems like pretty chill, actually. Like for me, the problem is like I'll be organizing my books, I'll think it takes 10 minutes, I'll see a field guide on mushrooms that I forgot I had, and then like 4 days have passed and I'm like, oh shit, right? Like I was supposed to do this, I was supposed to call this, but like it's just very unpredictable for me. So I would say that if it's something that you do feel like you can harness and channel, like I don't see any harm in that, honestly. But it might be different for someone who has a different relationship to their own cognitive process.
I think it can be a habit, and it's like Jeeyon, I encourage it in myself. I accept it and find that I often will take really deep dives in things that don't seem to relate to my game design practice or whatever it is I'm supposed to be focusing on. And I often find those to end up being rewarding and sometimes inspiring for other things. Like right now, I'm kind of learning Hittite. And I don't know why I shouldn't be. It's not a thing I should be using my time for, but I'm super into it. So something good will come out of it. I'm confident. And that's a habit I've had my whole life.
You, Tim?
What?
Do you have a tendency to just like get lost in like an area of interest?
Well, the thing is that hyperfocus is a clinical term, I think,
right.
And I'm not able to talk about hyperfocus, but like if I used to sit down and work on one thing for outrageously long periods of time, and I would get done with it and then be done within a very short period of time. I wrote 1,000-Year-Old Vampire in basically 2 sittings, right? 2 days.
Right.
And it didn't change much. And I have now, it's like I have a kid, I have other responsibilities, I take care of all sorts of things, and it destroys my ability to focus. If I can't sit, I have to work for an hour before I can start to work.
That's actually, I relate to that very deeply, depending on the project. But like, if you can make it over that hour, like I'm golden, right? Like I'm kind of similar to you with certain projects. Like, I know that, the first draft of Gideon Blythe, I wrote basically in an afternoon, which is unreal to me because that document was like 40 pages long, but like it just, it was fine. But speaking of bad habits, then what happened was I ran it by a couple people, and like it's a very heavy game that deals with heavy topics. And that's basically all they said. But like I worked myself up into like a little spiral of apprehension about like how that might play out on Twitter, because I at the time had friends in a different field who were dealing with a lot of like just tedious stuff to do with like social media reception. And instead of like thinking, well, you can just mute people, like that is a native function of the website and it improves your life drastically, I was like, God, should I rewrite it? And rewriting things when you feel good about them, that's a terrible habit. So like I rewrote that game 3 times. And so like rewriting a 40-page document that many times, like at this point I like it, but it was a lot of stress and a lot of time that I just basically wasted. So if you feel good and confident about something, just don't listen to other people. Just don't listen to other people, like except your copy editor and some sensitivity consultants maybe, right? But like don't listen to people on Twitter. Don't listen. Yeah. Just present your work. Art is not for everybody, and it's not the job of art to like soothe or console people. Like art is art. It doesn't have a job. It's art. So like just make what you want, Yeah.
Thanks
I feel
for
very
that question.
Yeah. Sorry. We got
No, that's good. It's a good question, and I hope that you will ask more questions.
Yeah.
There is another question.
Oh, all right. Wait, do you have more to say about that, Tim, before we move on?
I was gonna say, if I don't finish a game, if I stop working on a game, I have trouble going back to it. Once I've on to other things, and I have games that are 98% done. Right, I can send them to the printer if I sat down and worked for 3 hours.
Yeah.
I have games that are done. I have Apollo 47, which is a good game. Jason has played it. I think you liked it.
Yeah,
I can't fucking bring myself to publish it, to do anything with it.
What is wrong with you?
It's so good, Tim. That's a bad habit, not publishing Apollo 47.
Yeah, it's a very bad habit.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
Shame. Apollo 47 is legit one of my favorite games, and I had like such a good time playing it. So like it's totally your call whether you publish it or not, but I would love it if you did personally.
Me
so,
too.
Just saying.
I want to be a stretch goal for the Apollo 47 Kickstarter, Tim. Let's get our next question.
Yeah, let's do it.
How much of this framing of what's bad is just shorthand for works for me as a human and artist, but doesn't suit a capitalistic framework related to productivity / profitability?
Ooh,
that took a turn. Yeah. At first I thought that question was going to be what we've already covered, which is like everybody's different and doing their own thing. But you want to talk about capitalism. And I think that's interesting because this is how I eat. Personally, this is where my money comes from to pay for things. So that's always on my mind. It's part of my equation that I have to make. And when I'm making a game, I have to be thinking about that. And I have a business partner, so like yes, it's absolutely a thing. And Jeeyon, I know it's similar for you.
Yeah, I loved my teaching job. I miss teaching every day, and like I actually got an offer to go back, but it wasn't. I make more money with games. Like I'm now able to plan for my future in a way financially that I wasn't able to when I was teaching, which is like, speaking of capitalism, like what a horrible commentary on like our priorities as a culture. But nonetheless, like now this is 100% of my income, which means it feels very volatile and fragile a lot of the time. I would say the majority of the time, if not all the time. And so it can be hard not to be like ruled by that anxiety, like just the anxiety of like, God, if this doesn't go well, how do I make rent? But I do think that losing track of your own values in context to that is like the bigger mistake. So like an example of that would be that, no naming names or anything like that. And I have a lot of doubts that this very wonderful, nice person is watching this stream. But I was approached by a couple different people actually to do some design aspects on a team for some very cool projects that involved NFTs as like a major part of their game infrastructure. And I it was like what some of my friends would call real money, right? Like a lot of money. And I still said no because I just can't sign off on it. Like NFTs are literally an unnecessary degradation to the environment. And I know some people who said yes. And I honestly, like, this is not one of those areas where I can be like, no judgment. Like, I do judge. There is judgment. Yes, judgment. Because, like, at the end of the day, just living under capitalism doesn't mean, like, you don't have core values that will emotionally and psychologically affect you if you compromise them, right? Like, I think, like, not being able to say no to things is a terrible habit. And yeah. And like the reason you say no can be different, but like there are, chances are if you do this long enough, at some point someone will approach you with something very tempting because of capitalism. But if you say yes, like you will feel bad about yourself for so long that it's like, is it even worth it? Like at what point does the profit get offset by the therapy that I'm gonna be in to like come to terms with the decision I made? Right. So like I think that is something that like, maybe like set aside some time to define what that is for you so that you're prepared when that offer does come, because it will at some point. Yeah. So that's something that's been on my mind recently because NFTs are getting pushed very hard right now. But yeah, and then like in a more prosaic sense, like capitalism, a lot of people tell me that there are things I have to do, and there are people who are very successful and I love them dearly, but I don't do them. And maybe this is a bad habit, maybe not. But like, for example, I have not done a physical manufactured thing like ever. All of my games have either been like the text is digital, and then there are these like really fussy, very wonderful to make like art boxes, or there's like paper ephemera, but there's no book and there's certainly no merchandise. I've never done merch. And the reason why is because with the books, like even though I have some text that if I sat down and worked on them for a while, I could probably send them to a printer. It took me this long to find a printer that like matches those values that I was talking about. And I did find one who uses plant-based inks, like FSC certified. They're wonderful. So like, but their waiting list is long. It's like, great, I'll wait, right? Like I am adaptive enough that I can do other projects in the meantime, and I'm not sacrificing income. I can wait. There's no rush. But I think some people get in the habit of thinking like, I need to do this now. And for the same reason, I'm not doing merchandising because there's no reason. Like why would someone need like a field guide to memory T-shirt or no. The only reason I would do merch is if it was directly related to furthering the experience of the game. So like Shing and I are talking about at some point making custom blank journals for our games, since a lot of those keepsake games are journal based, that would have like specific ribbons or like rubber band or elastic bands to like help you mark your place, or like pouches that are released, things that like directly relate to the way the game is played. But we're not going to just do like blank journals on a print on demand site, because those manufacturing practices are not in line with our shared values. But now I actually do have I found a directory that's like still in progress that lists a bunch of businesses that are like FSC certified or have environmental like commitments that I like. And so now that option is open, right? But that wasn't true until literally last week. So I think that like that being said, a lot of people would say it is a bad habit that I don't consider physical goods, because some people really rely on that as an income stream. So, but that's again, it comes down to you, right? Like for me, those values are more important. For some people, the income that they get in the next week is more important. And it just comes down to you.
It circles back to capitalism too, because like you're turning away some income from people who want physical products that you could easily turn around. But yeah. Tim, ethical consumption under capitalism, where are you at?
I made a really pretty book. Thousand Vampires, stupidly fancy, but I actually have something better to talk about with that.
Ooh, yeah.
I already trashed one creative career because I stuck to my guns more than once. I kept it secret for a while. I used to have a fancy New York City art world life, right? And at one point, I showed with an okay gallery, but a incredibly fancy gallery that had multiple spaces around the world said, "Hey, if you take this artwork and start working in Russian religious icons, we'll do this. And I'm like, holy fuck, you people could make my life. But I have no fucking interest in working Russian religious icons into this artwork. That doesn't make any sense at all. And I didn't do it. And I had multiple opportunities where I could have broken my artwork to make it more saleable within a certain venue, or committed acts which were, I believe, exploitative of me. And I repeatedly chose not to do that. And hey, I like games, but art's like traveling the world making art is a lot cooler. It's like, than this. But I like this. But also, I trashed that once because I was unwilling to do the money thing. And I regret that now.
Do you wish that you had sold out?
Now that I have a kid and old people, yeah, I totally wish I had. I regret not selling out when I had the chance, when people were buying.
I feel like there will be opportunities to sell out, though. I feel like that is actually a more a deeper well than people think it's going to be, because capitalism is so demanding that there's always people looking to make like a quick big buck. So I don't know, I guess maybe this is naive of me, but I'm just like, there will be other opportunities, whether self-made or otherwise, down the line for me. And so like, I can say no now. However, like my dependents have 4 legs, and right now I don't have a cat, so their lifespans are in the single digits. So like, it's very different for me than for someone with like a human family.
Also, when we're talking about future opportunity to sell out, we are talking about Tim Hutchings here. So like, let's just be real.
I don't know what that means.
I have nothing left to sell. I'm done. My days are run. Yeah. Look at this.
Do we have any more questions?
Yeah.
We have one that is very similar to what you guys were just talking about. So if there's anything you want to add to, what's the worst habit when approaching making games for money then? And if not, I can go on to a different one.
Oh man, if you're making games for money, the worst habit is not caring about money.
Yeah. And underpricing your work is one of the big habits there too. Yeah.
And beyond that, I think that go ahead, Tim.
Well, I was going to say, breaking the artwork up and breaking the game up into too many different pieces in order to try to capitalize on all these different sale points. I've watched people do that innumerable times, and it's just disgusting. And it breaks the artwork, and they're like, well, we have to make this 30,000 words or whatever so that we can sell it.
Right.
That's sad.
It also, it's also counterproductive because actually you'll lose steam, right? Like the first, say, like, I don't know, 100 people, right, who like that first game, they're not all going to stick around for the second iteration of it or whatever. And so like, maybe you will grow your audience, but that's never a guarantee. And so you might as well just do the thing that feels complete, put it out there, and then move on, right? That's my opinion, so you can ignore it. Don't listen to me. This whole panel is about things not to listen to.
Either of you about this.
Yeah.
As we're about to drop our new expansion packs for Fiasco.
Well, Fiasco is different. There are infinite ways to mess up in the ways that Fiasco dictates. So,
That's true.
Speaking of selling out, tell us more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I mean but I think we were very fortunate that when we set out to improve the game, we were able to improve it in a way that also made it more sellable, more marketable.
Yes.
It was not, there was not a bullet point on our list that said make a version that people buy extra stuff for, but the fact that we can make expansion packs is good for us. It's good for everybody. It's a way for people who like the game to support us.
It's also like, for me, I love it from a design perspective because it's like kind of modular in a cool, creative way. And I like that a lot.
We could, let's not nerd out about that.
Anyway, yeah.
Success.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Buy my games. Buy all our games. I'm begging you. This took a sort of a dark turn once we started talking about money and capitalism and selling out.
Yeah.
I think like another, if you want to put a positive spin on it, I guess like one thing I could say is like, don't be afraid of money. Cause like, I know a lot of people think that because capitalism is inherently unethical or oppressive, that means like they can't want money. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Like, don't be afraid of making money, and don't be afraid of being really honest with your own personal goals of like, I want enough to reach a comfortable age and like not be worried about my physical health or whatever. Like that takes a lot of money, which means like you want to make money. Like don't be afraid of that either.
It breaks my heart when I see people drastically underprice or undervalue their work, and I don't get it.
It's rough.
I'm gonna agree with Jeeyon, but also say don't be afraid to waste money. I waste so much money on game things. I give so much stuff away to people who say, I love the book, but I can't afford it. And I have so many things, and money goes everywhere. And ultimately, if it turn around and help me make another vampire book that makes money, then that's great. But the money, once I get, the money can't. Retirement's great, but also we have to kind of keep giving back to everything, right? And that's a terrible habit. Yeah. But it ultimately makes me a better designer to say, hey, look, I bought this ancient journal for $600 and I have it, and I'm going to go through it, and I'm completely disappointed with the contents. It's not what I thought it was at all. But I'm still a better person who does what I'm interested in because I've had it.
Yeah. This is not my bad habit, so maybe I won't spend too long in it, but not enriching your life outside of games is a terrible habit. And I do see people doing it. Like their games become really, it's almost like a copy of a copy of a copy, not because you're imitating other people's work, but because you're just not soaking in the rest of the world, like art form or no art form, right? Like people don't look outside of games for their own game work sometimes, and that like really breaks my heart actually, and it does detriment your work. So that's a terrible habit that I've seen before. For sure.
It is.
Yeah.
That's my first advice to people. They're like, well, I want to be a game designer. What should I do? And I always say, be interested in everything.
Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Tim. No. Say things.
Dude. No, I was going to say something terrible. I want a question to distract me.
No, say the terrible. I want to hear the terrible.
Our time grows short and you haven't really humiliated yourself yet.
Exactly.
Okay. I have played on less than this many times have I played a role-playing game in the past year and a half. And it's terrible. And there's all sorts of reasons I don't do that, but it's really bad. And that's a bad habit.
That is, but also give yourself some slack. It's been a shitty year, man.
It's been a bad year. Yeah. This last year has been worse than the year before in some ways. It's a this does not count. I think you can give yourself slack on that one. Yeah.
I watch all these people and they're playing lots of games through the Zoom and the Twitches and all the things, and I'm not doing that, and I've kind of fallen off, and I'm still making stuff. And here's the thing. I think being strategically ignorant is really important. I don't read a lot of games unless I'm going to play them. I don't go out. I've never read Band of Blades, but I've never gotten to play Band of Blades. And so I am completely ignorant of how that game works. And I think that's valuable. And if I had my way, I would crawl in a hole and occasionally push poop out of it. That might be a game. And that's all I do for the rest of my life.
Yeah. That's not a bad way to live. I could see that. That would work out for me. Yeah.
Sad thing.
Okay, cool.
Do we have a question?
Are there any other questions?
Yes, we have a few.
Ooh, okay. Let's lightning round this. Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
We got 8 minutes.
Do any of you have to work on specific hardware or in a specific place to get anything done? Examples, the typewriter or at a Starbucks?
Either of you guys?
I have a very comfortable setup in my home where I like to work, but I can work anywhere. I'm not bound to particular rituals or hardware. How about you, Tim?
I don't work hard, so no. I don't have to do any particular thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, no, I can kind of work anywhere. Yeah.
Next question.
Yeah.
What are some of your bad habits you find in your day-to-day designs?
We just described them all, didn't we?
Well, surely not all, but the ones we could fit into an hour. Yeah.
What's a bad design habit you would never implement in your own work, but which you've appreciated in other works?
Ooh.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I might say people who borrow heavily from others. Maybe? Is that a bad design habit? But I never do that. I can't borrow heavily from others.
Yeah, I have a hard time doing that.
I admire people
too.
who can.
Me too. Like, I have a hard time even, like, I'm working on my first game that, like, barely even is like a powered by the apocalypse game, and it's a slog. It's so hard for me to use existing frameworks. And I really admire people who can, but I don't think that's a bad habit per se. It's just something that I can't do. Yeah.
It's a great question. I don't have a good answer for it.
Oh, shit.
It's a hell of a great question.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe,
yeah.
Maybe here's one. I've got it, and it's you, Jeeyon. It's you that does this.
Oh no.
You are. You're. I think I'm very productive, but you are also very productive. But you're like turning it out. You're producing things regularly of high quality, and it's just like a very small treadmill that's just shooting things out. And my sort of design core loop is much longer, and I wish I look at that, and I think that the thing in terms of bad habits. For me, the bad habit would be not enough iteration or playtesting before it's released.
Yeah, that's true. For a lot of my stuff, unless it involves more than one player, I don't really playtest it as much as I could. That's true. I was going to say, like, I tire myself out a lot. I'm much more tired on the inside than you are. So, there's that,
I don't know. I'm looking at Jason. He looks pretty tired.
I am kind of tired.
That's why I said on the inside, like, yeah.
That was a great question. Do we have other questions?
Other questions?
That was the last one so far. Chat's been having a good time, but
oh man, are they talking smack about us?
There's a little bit of smack. There's a little.
I mean, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah.
That's as people can see us. One of my really bad habits is I don't know how to share projects out. I don't know how to talk to people about the things I make. I don't know how to. I make something, I'm done, and I throw it in the trash can. I don't know how to say, hey, could you publish this? I don't care what it looks like, and I'm willing to just give you words. I don't know how to do any of that. And
as a publisher, that's a good habit. Keep it to yourself. Nobody wants it.
Yeah, keep that to yourself. But also, like, that's actually I guess a bad habit of mine. I have so far never worked with another publisher except for like anthology stuff, but not a major work. And for my workflow, that's kind of a bad habit because honestly, I feel like I would benefit from someone else taking most of the work except the writing. But I just don't. I'm so afraid of letting people down on deadlines and stuff that I don't do it.
I just want to point out for the viewers at home that Jeeyon and I had a very productive partnership. We produced a series of small games together that were lovely and successful. So she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Oh, but that wasn't like through, but I mean, yeah. Okay. We can argue about this later, but yeah, sure. Yeah. What else do I do? I'm very informal. That would be considered a bad habit by some people. Like I tend to talk to everybody the same way. And I think that's kind of informed by my work with children. And while that is, I mean, cause like you have to talk to kids the same way you talk to adults. Like you can't talk down to them. They'll roast the hell out of you. So like, that has become a habit of mine of just kind of talking to everyone like they're the same. And some people really don't like that. Most people seem okay with it, but some people, and like I am certain that I've lost opportunities because of my like general like mannerisms around like being pretty kind of casual. So like if that is a thing that concerns you, like if you want to work with the kind of people who might care about that a lot, like that's a bad habit for sure.
We picked up one last question.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any advice or tips on identifying habits that aren't working?
Ooh.
Yeah, but what do you do about the habits that aren't working? I just double down.
I feel like you'll know, right? You'll know if it's not effective, and then you have to make a choice. And you can be like us, or you can change your habit.
Yeah, I kind of like I do sometimes think about like, does something make me feel bad? We can swear. Is that okay?
I think so.
Okay, cool. With a friend, I actually was talking about this with a friend recently. I call this the fuckboy approach. Like, you know how like people there's certain people maybe in the world of a certain age who just like never make a commitment. If it feels bad, they're just out. And like, sometimes that's like actually a really great way to live. I'm like, oh, those dudes actually kind of know what's up. And so with like certain habits where I'm like, people say I should develop this, but if it makes me feel bad, I'm kind of out. So there are certain things that maybe would benefit me creatively that I just have just been like, I don't want to put a label on it. I don't want to do, so then I just don't do it. And it's been great for my morale. I don't know about like my creative chops, but you only live so long, right? Like, why stress yourself out if you can help it? There's so many stresses you can't help. So
we need to wrap this up. And what I would like you to do is just say your name again and where people can get your stuff if you want to, starting with Mr. Tim Hutchings.
Yeah.
My name is Tim Hutchings, and I have a 1000yearoldvampire.com and some stuff on itch.
How about you, Jeeyon?
My name is Jeeyon Shim. My name is my handle everywhere, including my Patreon, which is where all of these weird trash games go. Also, I have an itch, and I'm very active on Twitter.
And I'm Jason Morningstar. I'm the creative director at Bully Pulpit Games, which you can find at bullypulpitgames.com. We also have a Patreon and are releasing cool, weird games every month. This month's game was Space Ambulance. And if that doesn't grab you, I don't know what will.
I highly recommend Jason's Patreon, by the way. I was a patron for a while, and it is worth the $5 a month for sure.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And thank you for watching and listening.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, thank you.